Ever get that feeling? Like you're behind, everyone else is cruising along, and you're stuck in the slow lane. Well, today we're diving deep into better late than never. But, and here's the twist, is it always better? We've got two really thought-provoking pieces to dissect today.
And what's so cool is these sources don't just sugarcoat it. They get into the nitty-gritty. Right off the bat, they both agree. Better late than never isn't an excuse to procrastinate.
Totally. That really jumped out at me, too. It's not a free pass to just sit back and wait for the stars to align.
Exactly. One source uses this analogy. Imagine a ship leaving port. Miss that boat. Doesn't mean you can't sail, but you might need to find a different route. Build your own ship, maybe, or wait for the next one.
Love that. You're still in the game, but the strategy changes. So, how do these sources separate, like smart waiting from just avoiding something?
Well, one makes a distinction between, they call it productive delay, and then there's unproductive delay. Productive is intentional, right? You're gathering info, getting better at something, waiting to the right moment, like a chef prepping all their ingredients before they even turn on the stove.
Right, right. Sometimes that extra time lets you really perfect your craft. You come out swinging when the time is right.
Exactly. But unproductive delay, that's fear, self-doubt. It's that feeling of being stuck, like you can't even take that first step.
Oh, I think we've all felt that one at some point.
Definitely. And both sources are big on this. Taking action, even if it's messy, even if it seems late, that's crucial. They argue that even a tiny step forward can kickstart things, like a ripple effect.
So, less about the when, more about the doing.
Precisely.
Huh.
One even uses the example of apologizing. Even years later, a sincere apology can still mean something to both people.
It's funny you say that. That reminds me of a time. Oh, but we got to talk about these late bloomers. The whole Colonel Sanders starting KFC at 65. Kind of predictable, you know?
Sure, it's a classic, but let's dig a bit deeper. Why might starting later actually have helped him succeed?
Good question. Maybe it was all those years trying different things, learning from what didn't work, building up that resilience.
Bingo. That's what the source highlights.
Mm.
Sanders, all his time in restaurants, even the flops, gave him this unique view, this knowledge base. He could draw on that when he finally launched KFC.
So, not just age, but all that experience, good and bad, leading to that breakthrough moment.
Right. And this really challenges the idea that there's one right timeline for success. Sometimes, starting late gives you a deeper understanding of yourself and what you're going after.
I'm seeing now how better late than never isn't just like a nice saying, it can be a way to rethink our whole story.
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about these sources. They're not just saying late is okay. They're saying sometimes it might be the secret ingredient to unlocking your potential.
Okay, so we've got resilience versus laziness, the power of just doing something, and late maybe being an asset. But how does this link to bigger stuff like societal change?
Now that's where it gets really interesting. One source says, better late than never is vital for progress. Think of movements for social justice, the environment, anything that needs a system overhaul. Rarely happens overnight, right?
Yeah.
Takes time, sticking with it, fighting even when the odds are against you.
I like that. Don't give up on those fights just because you don't see results right away.
And this source goes even further. They say better late than never can drive innovation and creativity. Sometimes you need that fresh viewpoint, one that comes from being outside the norm, the usual timelines, to shake things up. So come up with those truly groundbreaking ideas.
Whoa, that's a powerful thought. Maybe we need more late bloomers in the mix, bringing those unique perspectives.
I think so too. And that's what I find so inspiring about this whole exploration. It's not just personal. It's about potential for collective progress and innovation.
Feeling like we need a part two to this deep dive already. So much more to uncover.
Absolutely. We've just scratched the surface. But before we jump into that, I want to hear your thoughts. What's hitting home for you so far?
As we dig into these sources more, it's striking how this better late than never idea, it's not just playing catch up, it's really challenging this whole idea of being on time to begin with.
I know, right? Before we started, I was thinking of all these areas I felt behind, but now it's like maybe those so-called delays are actually hidden opportunities.
And one source really highlights how this fear of being too late, it can be paralyzing. They even cite some research showing this fear often comes from pressure from society expectations, not some truth about time itself.
It's like we're all in this race against a clock. We can't even see, comparing ourselves to everyone else, always feeling like we're not doing enough.
Exactly. And this source makes a fascinating point about how that pressure can stifle creativity. When we're so focused on deadlines, external expectations, we lose that freedom to explore, to experiment, find our own way. Instead of asking, am I too late? Maybe it's, what can I learn from right now? How can I move forward authentically?
That's a great way to reframe it. And it links to something both sources emphasize: self-forgiveness. They argue that holding on to regret for past mistakes or perceived delays only weighs us down. It keeps us from being present.
Like carrying all this baggage makes it harder to run our own race, you know?
Precisely. One even suggests those past experiences, even the ones we see as failures or delays, those can be valuable. They teach us resilience, adaptability, a deeper understanding of our strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, but what about those who do find success later? Colonel Sanders, sure, but the source mentions others, like Julia Child, didn't publish her first cookbook till she was 50. What's their secret?
Well, one suggests late bloomers often have a different way of learning and growing. They're not afraid to try new things, even if they've already made a name for themselves in something else.
So it's like they have that beginner's mind, but with wisdom experience from life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be a huge advantage because they can bring a fresh outlook and a willingness to challenge what everyone thinks they know.
I'm starting to think this better late than never idea, maybe it's not just personal journeys, it has implications for society as a whole.
Absolutely. One source argues progress often needs that long game approach.
Yeah.
Look at the civil rights movement, the fight for women's suffrage, the environmental movement. They all took decades, even centuries, for real change to happen.
That's a powerful point. If those activists had given up thinking it was too late, imagine how different things would be.
Exactly. And this source even suggests those delays, setbacks, might have actually made those movements stronger in the long run. They gave time for ideas to spread, for alliances to form, for enough people to get on board.
So sometimes delays aren't setbacks, they're chances for something even bigger to come out of it.
I love that perspective. It brings us right back to challenging those timelines and expectations. Maybe we should be celebrating late bloomers, recognizing what they bring to the table.
I couldn't agree more. Now I'm curious, what about the flip side? Are there ever times when it's actually not better to be late?
That's a great question, and one these sources don't shy away from. They're all for better late than never. But they admit there are times when timing is everything.
Like emergencies, right?
Exactly. Or when a delay could have serious consequences. They stress being able to tell when you need to act now and when it's okay, even good, to be more deliberate.
It's about that balance then, right? Acting fast when needed, but embracing the better late than never mindset when it fits.
Exactly. And that ability to navigate the complexities of time, that's something we can all get better at as we learn and grow.
It's amazing how this conversation has changed my whole view. I started thinking about better late than never personally, like learning something new or finally taking that trip. But now it's connected to these huge ideas about society, even time itself.
That's what's so great about these deep dives. You start with something simple and then it just unfolds into all these layers.
Yeah, I know, right? And one thing I keep coming back to is late doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a strength creative, even a way to make change happen.
Absolutely. One source even says better late than never is like rebelling against the clock.
Ooh, I like that. It's like taking back our own time, not letting some schedule dictate our lives.
Exactly. And they argue that rebellious spirit is essential for innovation progress. They say it's often the people who break the rules, challenge the norm, operate outside of timelines who make the biggest impact.
So maybe instead of fearing being late, we should see it as a chance to shake things up, transform things.
I think so. And that brings us back to how better late than never can drive social change.
Right. All those movements gaining traction. Now Black Lives Matter climate activism, they've been around for years, decades, but now it's like we've hit this point where it's like, enough, we need action now.
And what's interesting is those movements are often led by people who've been pushed aside, ignored for so long.
So their lateness gives them this unique view, this urgency that's really powerful.
Exactly. And it makes us think about who we listen to, whose voices matter. Maybe those who've been waiting till they're too late are the ones with the answers for a better future.
That's a deep thought. Like, maybe we need to stop rushing progress and make room for those who've been shut out. Let them share their wisdom, lead the way.
Couldn't agree more. And this brings us back to the heart of what these sources are saying. Better late than never is more than a saying, it's a mindset.
A mindset that's open to what's possible, values different views, believes it's never too late to make a difference.
Right. And to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a question. What if, instead of seeing late as failing, we saw it as a chance to grow, innovate, even make positive change?
That's a great question. Maybe embracing this better late than never idea helps us build a world where everyone feels empowered to share their gifts no matter their timeline or background.
That's a beautiful thought. And I think it's possible if we challenge what we think, embrace the unexpected, never stop believing what people can do.
I love it. So much to think about from this deep dive. I hope it's given you all some food for thought, too. Until next time, keep exploring, keep an open mind, and remember, it's never too late to start creating the life you want.
And don't forget, like one source said, the only time that's truly lost is the time we spend regretting the past or fearing the future. The present moment is always full of possibility, just waiting for us to take it.
So true. So much wisdom here. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.